Hinderaker. He's written several really good pieces lately in the last week or so. And he's on the line with us now. And John, thanks for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show. I loved your
Hi, Howie. Great to be with you.
I loved your CDC column, the latest foolishness from the CDC. This chart that they put out about choosing safer activities. It was perfectly parodied later on today or earlier today by the Babylon Bee. But we'll tweet it out from the Babylon Bee, the one that their parody of it. But John's got a great description of it too. He's talking about these absurd regulations. Even as more and more people get vaccinated, they only marginally cut back on these absurd regulations. And he says, so why on God's green earth do you have to wear a mask at an outdoor sporting event if you've been vaccinated? Or attend a small indoor gathering of fully vaccinated and unvaccinated people wearing a mask. No one does that. But you've got a beautiful explanation about why they want people to continue wearing the mask. Explain to people what it is. I hadn't thought about this.
Well, yeah, that's right, Howie. On the one hand, they tell us if the vaccine works great, everybody must get vaccinated, right?
Right.
And they're right about that. And the data show that if you've been vaccinated, your chance of getting this disease is just virtually zero. And if you can't catch it, you can't spread it. You can't communicate a disease you don't have. And so why in the heck do they keep telling us that even once you're vaccinated, you can go for a walk in the woods by yourself, but other than that, you got to wear a mask? And here's the reason, Howie. The reason is because if they said, hey, if you've been vaccinated, take off your mask, you're good to go, well, then all the vaccinated people would take the masks off if they're in a restaurant or a shopping center or whatever it might be. Well, what would happen is that the people who haven't been vaccinated, they'd look around and they'd start taking their masks off too. And you can't tell by looking at a person whether he's been vaccinated or not. And what that means is that the harpies wouldn't know who to shame.
Exactly. We call them Karens. The Karens wouldn't know who to yell at. It's
exactly right. If they start yelling at you, you'd say, hey, man, leave me alone. I'm vaccinated. And so that is literally the only reason why they're still doing this, why they're saying people who have been vaccinated got to keep wearing masks.
Yeah, and there was a column in the New York Times by a guy named David Leonhard. He says experts want to keep vaccinated people masked because masks are a symbol of solidarity that shows the mask wearer is a decent person. What kind of attitude is that for a free society? And he said masks, it's not a big deal because masks are only a modest inconvenience. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's not up to some columnist for the New York Times or Dr. Fauci to decide what's a modest inconvenience or an immodest inconvenience, is it, John?
I think wearing a mask is an outrage.
I do too.
It's unbelievable to me that people put up with it. Every time I put a mask on, I feel like an idiot. And I wrote about that column by Leonhard. It was one of the dumbest things I ever read. He says that you wear a mask to show solidarity. Solidarity with whom? Dr. Fauci? I mean, it's completely stupid.
Yeah, he also said you should wear a mask to contribute to a culture of mask wearing. I want to destroy the culture of mask wearing, John, and I think most people do, don't they? I don't want to.
Exactly.
I don't want to promote it.
No, Howie, you and I are old enough to remember when there were actually some feminists who burned their bras. Remember that?
Right.
Well, I want to have bonfires of these stupid masks. I want millions of people burning their masks. I want to get back to the way things have always been through human history. We're living through a period of intense stupidity.
I went to a college same time you did. And they had ROTC, and you had to wear uniforms for reserve officers training. And those guys would get dirty looks from a lot of people because they were wearing a uniform. Now the same people who were giving them dirty looks are saying, you put on this uniform or you're a bad person. You know, it's amazing how things have changed.
And it's totally symbolic, Howie. I mean, I've studied the data on this, and you can put up a chart, whether it's a state or a country. I've seen dozens of them, and you can chart cases, you can chart deaths, you can chart hospitalizations, anything you want. You draw that graph, and then you put lines where that state or that country initiated a shutdown, or you can put lines where they initiated a mask mandate, and you cannot find any difference. I mean, you just cannot see any impact. Where I live in Minnesota, we've had one of the harshest shutdown and mask regimes of any state. And right next door in Wisconsin, they've had one of the lightest regimes. Their Supreme Court declared an order that had been implemented there unconstitutional early on. And so they've had a much different regime, a much freer regime than we have. And if you look at the COVID numbers, they're exactly the same. There is no difference. Minnesota has gained nothing from this shutdown, the shutdown orders and the mask mandates.
I want to get into another column you wrote about another aspect of the Democrat Party orthodoxy these days, and that's wind and solar energy. And you wrote the headline on your column was "Why Wind and Solar Energy Are Doomed to Failure." And of course, it's just not very efficient, as Texas found out this winter. But you quote from a paper that just came out. The biggest barrier is the land use problem. The ferocity and extent of rural land use conflicts showing that any attempt to convert the domestic economy to run solely on renewables, wind and solar, is destined to fail. So tell us, John, how much land would you need to supply the U.S. electrical grid with wind power? How much land?
Yeah, this is a paper that was done by Robert Bryce, nationally known energy expert, and actually published by the organization that I run, Center for the American Experiment. And one of the things that Robert did, he did the math on that. And if you wanted to power America's electric grid with wind turbines, you would have to dedicate an area twice the size of the state of California.
Right. Twice the size of the state of California. And then you would have to run these giant transmission lines across the rural areas where you would put these huge wind farms, and they're going to be objected to even more vociferously probably than the Keystone Pipeline or the Dakota Pipeline is objected to, and there will be 1 million lawsuits against it.
One of the things going on here, Howie, is they don't put these wind turbine farms in the Hamptons. They don't put them in Marin County. They don't put them in affluent suburbs.
Nantucket Sound.
America.
Yeah.
They don't put them in those places. They put them in out-of-the-way rural areas where people live who don't have any political clout. And those people don't like it for a lot of reasons. They're right not to like it. So what they do is they'll site these wind farms in some remote corner of North Dakota or something, and then they will build transmission lines to the urban areas that actually need the electricity. And so one of the things that Robert Bryce calculated in this paper is that along with dedicating land equal to twice the size of the state of California, you would have to build 240,000 miles of transmission lines to carry the electricity to the cities where the electricity is needed. And if you do the math, that's about 10 times around the Earth. And again, as you say, Howie, it's not going to happen. And one of the things that we're seeing happily, there are some 300 instances that Robert has documented where townships, towns, counties have risen up against these wind farm developments and said no, right, and have successfully blocked them. It's like that's the big problem they have in Germany. They had this big wind mandate. We're gonna fuel all of our Audi and Volkswagen factories with wind. Well, of course, the car companies objected to that. But one of the problems they're having is they can't. There's no place where they're able to get away with putting these massive wind farms.
Right. And, I just noticed that, they were talking about putting some in just recently in the off the Hamptons. And again, like you say, it's one of the richest areas in the country on Long Island. And they've already stopped it. They've already stopped it. It took years and years to set up any kind of wind farms near where Ted Kennedy and John Kerry live.
Yeah, right.
And then and now they're talking about, we need environmental justice because communities of color are more affected by these fossil fuel plants. But as you also point out, the noise produced by wind turbines adversely affects human health. And how about all the birds, the millions of birds that are killed? You're going to get the Audubon Society involved in this,
Yeah, the birds and the bats. No, wind and solar are both terrible for the environment. I could go on for days about this, Howie. Another post I did recently shows a video of an abandoned wind farm in the Oklahoma Panhandle. And it's the most god-awful thing you ever saw in your life. What a blight on the landscape. And the wind turbines only last 15 or 20 years, and then you got to figure out how to dispose of them. The vast bulk of them are not recyclable, and so just disposing of this stuff is a huge, huge problem.
And as you have a chart in there, power density of various energy sources. If these people were serious, they'd be going with nuclear power. Nuclear power is the best deal going, isn't it?
Well, if you care about carbon dioxide, I don't much care about carbon dioxide, but if you do, the only option is nuclear energy. A lot of people don't realize, Howie, solar energy, depends where you live. Solar energy works a lot better in Arizona than Minnesota. Where I live, solar panels produce electricity about 18% of the time, okay? 82% of the time, they don't do a thing. And, here in Minnesota, it snows in the winter. And guess what? If solar panels get covered with snow, they don't produce electricity. And the utilities in my part of the country in the winter, they don't even bother to shovel them off because they are such pathetic sources of energy. It isn't worth the trouble to shovel them off. It's ridiculous. So wind turbines produce electricity about 40% of the time. So what that means is that 60% of the time you're burning natural gas. Or if it's solar panels where I live, 82% of the time you're burning natural gas. It's a joke. And so if you care about carbon dioxide, the only way to go, the only thing that will produce power reliably 24/7 without producing carbon dioxide is nuclear energy. And if you're a greenie and you're not in favor of nuclear energy, you're just not serious.
Yeah, but they've all seen the China syndrome, John. They know. It's
oh, Lord. Yeah, I know it. And it's so comical. They talk about nuclear waste. I happen to know a little bit about this because of legal work I used to do. But you could take all the nuclear waste that a nuclear power plant produces in 50 years and store it in a large room. Whereas these wind turbines, do these things are 50 stories high?
I know. I've seen them. They're everywhere. Even if you just see a few of them, it's ridiculous. John Hinderaker, right. You keep up the good work. You've been doing some good columns. We didn't even get you to talk about the Asian discrimination that the Democrats all voted for in the Senate, but we'll come back to that at some point. Thank you very much for being with us, and keep up the good work at powerlineblog.com, and we'll tweet out the parody CDC chart from the Babylon Bee. You may have just seen my tweet or received a special email from me. Eden Pure has brought back the 3-pack for this week only. You can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier 3-pack. You will get 3 units for under $200 and you'll save $200. One for your basement, first floor and second floor, all in one purchase. Allergy season is here and is not ending anytime soon. If you suffer from all the pollen, then you need the Thunderstorm. With the 3-pack, you can now enjoy clean air everywhere in your house or workplace. It's been months now that we've been talking about the Thunderstorm Air Purifier. People still ask me if it really works. Not only does it work, really, it works in hours.
Howie, the Eden Pure name, as you know, has been trusted in the Cormier family for several generations now, and this product, the Thunderstorm, is far and away one of their best that they've ever put out. And if you get one, you're going to want 2, and if you get 2, you're going to want 3. This is the best deal that they have going.
Really, it's a great deal, and you never have enough of these Eden Pures, even if it's just a gift it's a good Mother's Day gift too. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier is so small and light you can hold it in your hand like I'm doing right now, plug it into the wall. The best part is you don't have to replace any air filters, which of course saves you time and money. Other air purifiers can be very bulky. They can cost you up to $600 for just one unit. Go to EdenPure.com, click the radio banner, and put in code word Howie3 to save $200 for their special 3-pack. EdenPure.com, radio banner, code word Howie3. The 3-pack special is for this week only. I'm Howie Carr.
Got hate mail?
You got anything on your chest besides your chin, you better get it off.
Send it off to Grace at HowieCarrshow.com.